team like Kyrie and KD. Or the Lake Show with King James and AD. Wish I could match him up with the bad boys from the 80s. But no black and white, I need that in HD. HenDawgz.
Yo, what's good, y'all? It's your boy HenDawg, and we back to it. You know how we do it. So for over the last few weeks, I've been hearing a lot of Michael Jordan Wizards talk. You know, my whole life I've been hearing about Chicago Bulls Michael Jordan, but as of late I've been hearing a lot of Wizards Michael Jordan talk, and it was like some people was kind of saying that he made a big mistake by coming back to the Wizards, and then other people were saying, you know, this just show how great he was being able to, you know, average. I think he averaged like 20 points or something. Like he averaged a good amount of points at 40, which is super impressive. So I'm like, you know what? Let's dive into a little bit of the Washington Wizards Michael Jordan. So I found like 3 or 4 videos that I'm going to react to today. I think a couple by Basketball Time Machine, and then another one by Clayton Crowley. I rock with Clayton Crowley heavy. He got all of the good videos. So I'm about to react to his first one, which is actually a crazy title. I'm sure a lot of y'all clicked on this video because this title is wild. But let's get into it. But before we do, make sure y'all subscribe to the channel. On the way to 10K. I feel like I've been saying that forever, man. So help me out. I be getting, you know, a good amount of views, but I feel like a lot of people don't be subscribing. So before we get into it, please subscribe to the channel. Go ahead and like this video if you like it, which I know you will. And go ahead and write something in the comments. Let me know how y'all feel about the Michael Jordan Wizard, or the Wizards Michael Jordan, because he obviously wasn't the Chicago Bull Jordan, but at the end of the day, it's still Mike. He was still doing his thing. But let's get into this video, man. We got Michael Jordan was a failure as a Washington Wizard. Let's get it.
Years as a Wizard are MJ was actually really good as a Wizard. Still getting buckets. People need to talk more about how good MJ was with the Wizards. No, we don't. If you've been around basketball circles for a while now, you've certainly heard or seen things like this. There's a group of the population that believes that Jordan's 2 past prime years spent with the Washington Wizards contribute in some way to his claim as the greatest basketball player who's ever lived. I know very well, because I disagree. I said as much when I made the case for Jordan as the GOAT, choosing to ignore those 2 ignoble seasons and encouraging the greater basketball watching public to do the same. I have not stopped hearing about it since. So I'm here today to defend myself. Relevant backstory in 40 seconds. Michael Jordan retired from the Chicago Bulls for good at the end of the 1998 NBA Finals after hitting the game-winning shot at the end of Game 6 to capture Chicago's second three-peat in 8 years. In January of 2000, Jordan became a minority owner of the Washington Wizards and the team's president of basketball operations. A year later, the Wizards were still bad and ended up winning the draft lottery, taking Kwame Brown out of high school with the #1 overall pick in the 2001 NBA.
Shout out to Kwame Brown.
In September of that year, Jordan returned to the NBA as a guard for the Wizards at the age of 39. He would retire for the final time following the 2002-2003 NBA season at the age of 40. So what we're looking at is 2 seasons for the Wizards when Jordan was 39 and 40. Those who fight for Jordan in these years point out that in his first year with the Wizards, Michael had them contending for the playoffs at about a .500 winning rate. His season averages of about 23 points, 5.5 rebounds, and 5 assists are remarkable for someone his age. They'll point out that he suffered an injury and only played in 60 games, and that the Wizards saw an 18-game improvement from the year prior.
How you think that dude, is that Eton Thomas? Who is that? How you think he had to feel to hurt the 39-year-old Michael Jordan? Like, I know he felt terrible.
With Jordan, the only major addition that the team saw, and were a vastly improved defensive unit. They'll also point out that in his second season, Jordan played in all 82 games, averaged 20 points, 6 rebounds, and about 4 assists, and that there were moments in both seasons that saw Mike reach back and remind the world of who he really was. He scored 40 points at 40 years old.
40 at 40?
He scored 50 points at age 39.
50 at 39?
He hit a memorably clutch shot in the All-Star game. He had a 2-handed block against his former team, the Bulls, and so on. There were moments in those seasons when Jordan ignited and squeezed a couple more drops out of the talents of the greatest basketball player ever. I can't dispute that. And by the way, I am totally sympathetic to those people who want to defend these Jordan years. It's fucking cool to see Michael Jordan at 40 years old still filling up the cup with turnaround jumpers and swooping layups. He's MJ, Air Jordan.
I was just about to say that, man. Like, this shit looks so weird watching this because this is what I grew up. This is the only Jordan I kind of knew for, while I was like growing up watching basketball. But over the last few years, I haven't watched none of this Wizards Jordan. It's been all just Chicago Bulls, doing my research, just seeing why he's the greatest of all time. So now it looks so crazy seeing that Michael Jordan MJ, like that guy that I just, completely forgot about, and just all I can picture is that Chicago Bulls Jordan. Like, he's really out here with the Wizards. Like, that's really crazy for real.
It's just further proof that there was never a time when he wasn't good at basketball. But he wasn't great. And that's the point I'm trying to make. And I know that I'm about to talk shit about the GOAT. But hey, nobody made him come back. We hold every other great player to the standard of Michael Jordan. Why don't we do the same with Michael Jordan? First off, yes, he did put up stats. 40 at 40 is pretty crazy. 50 points at any age is an accomplishment. And to average a solid stat line in a professional sports league when you're pushing 40 is no easy feat. But is that what we're impressed with? Just that Michael could put up stats at an advanced age? Because that's what it seems
why not?
like. There have been guys throughout basketball history who could put up stats that didn't mean anything. We can dive deeper into most of the accomplishments of Jordan's time with the Wizards and poke pretty sizable holes in them. But first, we have to thank the sponsor of today's video, Manscaped. You've heard the name.
Shout out to Manscaped, but they ain't paying us, so we gonna just fast forward skate past that. Shout out to Manscaped though, let's work.
Back to poking holes. The Wizards improved by 18 games when Jordan joined the Wizards and finished a sterling 37 and 45.
He didn't have no help
and missed
though.
the playoffs.
He didn't
And
have
sure,
any
he
help.
got injured and missed the end of the season, but even if they'd finished at the 500 rate they were winning at when he was healthy, they would have still missed the playoffs. And that was the whole point. Michael said he came back because he had an itch that needed to scratch, watching his team struggle to meet his lofty expectations. He wanted to come back, impart some wisdom, and teach the young guys how to win. Knowing what we know about Michael Jordan, we cannot be surprised that he did it this way. He's basketball Thanos.
Fine. I'll do it myself.
And yeah, the Wizards improved defensively, but to cite a single
Give me
player,
that.
even Michael Jordan, as the sole reason for that improvement is a gross oversimplification that borders on irresponsible. Defense in basketball is one of the hardest metrics to quantify, even today, and one player can only have so much impact on that end.
But Jordan put up stats. He got buckets. He was still MJ.
That he did. He put up points. Unfortunately, he took an inordinate amount of shots to get there. He ranked among the worst players in the league in efficiency metrics and shot a career low 41% from the field. And in that first season, his scoring did little to sway outcomes. In games where he scored 30 or more points, the Wizards were 7-9. His scoring dropped slightly in his second year as he improved his shooting to 45%, his second lowest career average. That increased efficiency helps the Wizards finish 37 and 45 and miss the playoffs.
Damn, same
Okay.
record? Consistency?
Look, MJ wasn't an embarrassment. It's not like he was Willie Mays. But to pretend that he was still all of Michael Jordan, or even that he was one of the most impressive athletes at an older age, is incorrect. More than anything, you can't convince me that 2 years that he spent on a team that he ran, putting up empty stats on a
Tyronn
mediocre
Lue?
team, meaningfully contributes in any way to the conversation of that player as the greatest basketball player of all time.
So I got a question for y'all. Let's take a little break. I know I always gotta ask my question midway through the videos, but like, what do y'all think was the reason why Jordan came back for the Wizards? Like, I mean, he was obviously no stranger to retiring, but after retiring, after the last, the game winner, the last shot against the Jazz, him retiring after that made sense. So what was the reasoning behind, y'all think was the reasoning behind him coming back and just playing for the Wizards? Y'all think he was really that arrogant, like that cocky, to think that he can come back and do exactly what he was doing for the Bulls? Because I never really thought about that, but it might have been some type of like delusion, you know, in Jordan's head that was like, I could come back and just play for the Wizards and win more championships. Like, I wonder if he really thought that. Let me know if y'all think that he thought that, or did he just want to come back and add to his scoring, you know, his scoring records. Like, he wanted to get his points up a little bit more. Like, you never really know the real reason why, but let me know what y'all think was the reason why.
And what? You're gonna tell me I should lower the standard and expectations? Because he took a few years off and because he's older? Fine. That's why it is impressive that he put up stats. But again, how is that in any way meaningful to Jordan's overall legacy? Because that legacy is of the GOAT. We also can't ignore the fact that this was Jordan's team. Literally. Not just an attitude. He built it. He picked who he played with and who coached him. He hired Doug Collins, a brilliant basketball mind and by all indications a wonderful person who preceded Phil Jackson as Michael's coach on the Bulls. Of course Collins wasn't going to disagree or go over Michael's head. Yeah, Michael was his player.
Jordan was
Michael
the
was
coach.
also his boss. Jordan drafted Kwame Brown with the first overall pick and then destroyed the teenager's confidence with trash talk and insults. Brown never developed the rhythm nor confidence to fulfill his potential and goes down as one of the most underwhelming number one picks ever. You're
Shout out to
probably
Kwame
saying
Brown,
that Kwame wasn't tough enough to hang with Jordan, that he didn't have it in him. But remember, Kwame was coming right out of high school as the top pick in the draft. The stories about how unprepared he was for life on his own are pretty famous. He didn't know how to buy groceries for himself, how to take his clothes to the dry cleaners. Just like most kids in their first year out of high school, he was learning a lot. It's important to remember that in those situations, the prep to pros that make it, like LeBron, Dwight Howard, and KG, are exceptions, not the rule. His life was changing dramatically. The last thing he needed was the most homicidally competitive athlete of the last 50 years screaming at him on the court as a player, while also maintaining an incredible amount of control over the team as a quasi-executive. Sure, maybe Kwame would have never developed into a great player or even an all-star. Maybe he didn't have it in him. But I have to believe that on any other team, he would have been in a better situation. And if we're gonna ease up on...
I agree. I always tell people, like, one thing that's very, very important is situations. Like, the situation that you put yourself in, or sometimes you don't, it's not even up to you. You just, the situation that you're in, like, you know, it has a lot to do with the outcome. Sometimes you gotta work harder because of the situation you're in. You know, you still can overcome certain things, but just keeping that in your head that a situation could make or break you, I think that'll help you prepare for like anything.
the leash with MJ because he's older and he's been out of the league for a few years, and because he said he's just coming back to be a mentor and teach the kids. We're applying a different standard to him than the one he was holding others to. It wasn't just that Jordan wanted to come in, impart some wisdom, and help the team grow organically. After year one, he traded Rip Hamilton. The same Rip Hamilton who would be an integral part of Detroit's 2004 championship roster for Jerry Stackhouse, a talented offensive player who would go on to say that he wished he never played for the Wizards. It was a win-now move that didn't produce a single more win than the year prior and saw a championship piece traded away. Again, I don't blame Jordan for doing it the way he did.
Jerry Stackhouse.
He's Michael Jordan, basketball Thanos. He only knows one mode of athletics: win. But when he is no longer a player who can ensure that that happens through sheer will and talent, fails as an executive to construct a roster that could potentially develop into that, and can't transition into a mentorship role that is conducive to that outcome, how can we label that experiment as anything other than a failure? The Wizards' MJ experience didn't work. That's a fact. The sights might have been lowered from winning a championship to making the playoffs, but they didn't make the playoffs. MJ put up empty stats, the team lost more games than they won, and they missed the playoffs both years. It didn't work. If it was a success, and it was impressive, why did Mike get canned when he finally retired? He thought he was going to go right back to being a full-time executive, but owner Abe Pollin told him to take a hike. Bad chemistry, a losing record, and organizational dysfunction that led to Jordan getting fired. Yeah, that sounds underrated to me.
Nah, I'm dead.
So again, are we just impressed that Michael could score at an old age? That he played through injury? It's fine if the answer is yes, but does that mean we have to ignore everything else? When Tim Duncan was 38, he was third-team All-NBA and an All-Defensive Team selection.
That's a good point.
Tom Brady won a Super Bowl MVP at the age of 43 and then led the league in passing yards and touchdowns at the age of 44. But both of those guys had the advantage of modern medicine, you might say. Well, in the 80s, Kareem was first-team All-NBA at age 39 and averaged 26 points in the playoffs. He averaged 19 points in the playoffs at 40 and helped the Lakers win the championship. And at 41, in a do-or-die situation in Game 6 of the Finals, the Lakers ran the play that would decide their season through him. He drew a foul and converted to help the Lakers capture back-to-back championships. That's impressive. Those Wizard years don't tarnish Michael Jordan's legacy. He's still the greatest player of all time. But the metric by which we measure Michael Jordan is not statistics. Those are an accessory. We measure Jordan by the fact that he got it done. And in those years, he didn't. I wish those Jordan years had never happened. As far as I'm concerned, the last shot that Michael Jordan ever took in the NBA was to win his 6th championship at the end of Game 6 in 1998. One, because I like that ending much more than how his career actually ended, with Allen Iverson talking about how cool it was to play against his airness after the Sixers waxed the Wizards by 20. And two, because those 2 years with the Wizards do nothing, as far as Jordan's legacy is concerned, as the greatest basketball player who has ever lived. So, I pretend they never happened. And maybe, so should you.
Hey, y'all. He bring up some very great points. Like, I really wasn't too much agreeing with him until the end. So he started bringing out the facts. And Kareem being 38, competing for championships. They have better teams, though. Tom Brady competing for championships well into his 40s. So, I see what he doing. Man. But that Wizards team was trash. I'm going to just end this video by saying, I agree that those last 2 years in Washington did nothing to help his legacy. I wouldn't say that made him more of the GOAT. But it didn't hurt him. I don't think it hurt at all. But I don't know, man. Let me know what y'all think about that. That was a super dope video. You don't really get too many videos like that. So I'm glad I reacted to it. Let me know what y'all think about it. Go ahead and subscribe to the channel if y'all haven't already. And go ahead and like this video, man. But I appreciate y'all like always. We out.